Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name's Jen with Sloat Garden Center. Welcome to our webinar with Elizabeth Ruiz on hydrangea care and pruning. This class is super popular. We've got about 500 people logging on, so that's fun. Because we have such a big group, we want to be sure to reserve time for questions. If you any questions that you have, if you could feed them into the Q&A portion, that would be best. I'm going to try to answer some, and then Elizabeth is going to break sort of midway through for questions, and then we'll also reserve the majority of the questions towards the end of the presentation. I want to let you know that this is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our website on Tuesday, September 28th. You can also follow us on YouTube, and you'll get a notification once we post it on YouTube. So there's two ways to find the recordings. And I do want to say that a couple upcoming classes that we have is we're going to have Orchid Basics next week, which is October, holy smokes, October 2nd at 10 in the morning. That's a Saturday. It's with the San Francisco Orchid Society. And then the following Saturday, we're doing Beyond Lawns. So, and I know that's super popular. So if you're considering taking out your lawn or reducing your lawn space, highly recommend that class. It's October 9th at 10 a.m. And check out all the rest of the listings. Really, there's a ton of fun classes through the end of the year. So we hope you can join more. All right, like I said, we have a big group. I'm sure we have a ton of questions, and I know Elizabeth has a lot to share. So we'll just get to it. Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today. I really look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Ruiz. My company is Go With Nature. I have been doing pruning for up to like more than 15 years. So everything that I try to talk in these seminars is based in my experiences, is based in what I see at the moment, and maybe preparing for what is going to happen. So I do have to admit that I'm a little bit of a rule breaker. So, but I do it with logic. So I want to explain to you a little bit in how do I approach hydrangeas on my own way. So I am going to say, I'm going to break the rules in this one, but I'm going to give you the best approach. So I think pretty much working, having a like pruning business, I need to be efficient. I need to be able to do it without worrying. And so this has been the best way I find out with all the problems and all the troubleshooting. The pruning that I'm gonna explain to you guys today has been the best way to approach it. So the hydrangea. So one of the things I do wanted to clarify a little bit is the species. So we have hydrangeas. There are like 70 plus. Some people say 80 different species in the hydrangea world. In the world for hydrangeas. We in the US we usually have 5 to 6 species that are commonly used. So in the case, so we have Hydrangeas the genus, the species is the second name, and then we have the cultivars. Cultivars, we have so many, I can't tell, and I can actually even identify them. But you know, like I'm gonna go a little bit through the specifics of the species. So then the Hydrangea Microphylla is one of the most common hydrangeas. The one thing about this hydrangea is they can take part to full shade. to a full sun only in moist conditions. So also the flowering time is kind of like important for me. So June and October, usually most of the hydrangeas produce flowers. All of the hydrangeas produce flowers from June to September, somewhere in that range. And that is what I need to know when I am gonna do my pruning. These specifics, you can read about it. The important ones that I actually highlight here is that for the Microphylla has been one of the hydrangeas well known of producing flowers in the old wood. And I'm gonna explain a little bit more about that. So what I mean is when we look at the cycle of the plant, we're gonna see that some of the hydrangeas produce the flower bud. So they grow and they produce the flower bud right at that new growth. And some of them have the flower bud overwintering. So that means they produce the flower bud the year before, and then they flower, that flower bud would flower next year. So right now, one of the things that I want to highlight is that we are going to be seeing new cultivars and older cultivars. And so in the case of the Hydrangea Microphylla, the older cultivars were the ones that produce in the older wood. And right now we have them producing in new and old. So pretty much that is, for example, the enderless summer hydrangea. They produce flowers twice a year. So we have to keep in mind, you know, things are changing, everything is evolving, not only technology, not only how we teach the class, but also what cultivars we're getting. Oh, got stuck. This gets stuck on sometimes, and I don't know why, but what is the picture? Okay, so then we have the Paniculata. The Hydrangea Paniculata is one of, like, I think it's kind of like this, the third most common hydrangea that you see. You recognize it because of the flowers. So Paniculata means kind of like cone, and that is what they are describing. Usually is the flower. The important thing about this one I highlighted here is blooms in new wood, in new growth. And also that is drought tolerant. So this is a really good plant to have. If you are going to buy a new hydrangea, this will be one that I will suggest. This hydrangea can be a little bit big. So trying to keep hydrangeas small can be an issue. So I will say, you know, so let me explain this. Can be an issue because if this hydrangea, in this case, for example, I get a hydrangea that's going to be 12 feet tall. If I'm going to try to keep it small, to be in a pot, to be 3 feet tall, is going to be a little bit of an issue. And the issues could be that because I prune so hard, I have canes that are really long and cannot support the flower, because how you can see the flowers are really big. So in the case of getting a new hydrangea, I do say to people, keep in mind the size that the hydrangea will grow, because keeping a smaller hydrangea is not as easy as it sounds. And this is drought tolerant, how I say. There are many cultivars in this Paniculata. Oh, and the other thing I do wanted to highlight, that this Paniculata takes full sun. That is, for me, is kind of like important, because like that means it can tolerate a range of situations. And actually, even though it doesn't say there, sorry, it doesn't say there, I forgot to put it. It tolerates a lot of different soils. So that is actually what it also helps for being drought tolerant. The Cursifolia is one of the hydrangeas that I will say I put it, I separated from the rest of the hydrangeas. And the reason is because in this one, this hydrangea, because of the big leaves, the big flowers, I think the personality is a little bit different. I will keep this, I will prune this hydrangea, like I will keep this hydrangea like big. I will not, this is one of the hydrangeas that I will not try to keep it small. Keeping a smaller hydrangea with big leaves, it looks kind of weird. The canes, when you try to cut it really strong, the canes become really wobbly, so they will not be able to hold the flowers. So this is important. I like to use this hydrangea a lot for like background situations where I need like a lot of contrast, because the foliage will give you contrast. They produce beautiful fall color. They are semi-deciduous, so sometimes they will not get fully naked. So it's really good for blocking stuff. And but if you prune it wrong, so then you're gonna have a hydrangea that is gonna be really whippy. So you wanna keep in mind that. And also this hydrangea is drought tolerant, so it's really good. The Arborescens is one that is kind of common. It's not as common as the Microphylla and the Paniculata, I will say, but it is. Annabelle is pretty common. This one, most of the hydrangeas right now are like bloom in the new growth, and it tolerates drought. So this one is another one, and also it's this one. The only thing is that you don't want to put it in full sun, or it needs a lot of like it needs water when it's established. So that, but before established, it does need water. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is, if you put it in full sun, it's not gonna be so drought tolerant. That's what I try to say. The hydrangea anomala. So this one is the climbing hydrangea, and this one is another one that I use. I put it kind of like separately, even though it grows in new wood. This one is super easy to maintain. It doesn't say here, but in my, like I have seen it, like it actually can take full sun pretty well. I had it in 2 houses and it's full sun. In one of the houses is in San Francisco, it's in a hillside, it's actually covered in the whole hillside. And because the stems have root system, it actually is really good for erosion control. And is it actually looks really beautiful. So you don't have to do a lot of maintenance on it. This is the one I put it there, 30 to 4 feet spread. So pretty much this hydrangea is not something that you are gonna put it for a little space. You wanna put it in a big, to cover big areas, or yeah, it can cover a good wall. So just don't try to use it for little spaces. This is the easiest, for me, this is the easiest hydrangea to deal with, actually. The other thing is, how he says here, grows against walls, bricks, and stones. So the one thing is, if you are putting it against a wall, it is gonna stick in your wall, and if you have to remove it, you are gonna remove paint and stuff like that, because it's aerial roots that they hold on. So you have to be aware of that. Don't put it in a wall that you don't want the roots to get to it. And then the last one is the Hydrangea rata. So this one is in the small size hydrangeas. This is really good for containers. It's a part shade hydrangea. So it is gonna, if you put in, I would say as a general rule, if you have a part shade hydrangea that for some reason is getting sun, so that means they're gonna need more water. And in general rule, if you have like a place to put hydrangeas, morning sun is better than afternoon sun. So those are the 6 different hydrangeas that we have here commonly in the US Bay Area. So now, when to prune hydrangeas? This is one of the things that I went around and I keep trying to figure it out how to express this in the best way and how to make it clear why pruning and when pruning. So this is the way I decided, you know what, I'm gonna give you my analysis. So this is the way I do when I am gonna prune something, in this case hydrangeas, and I'm gonna look at the plant cycle. That means I'm gonna look at the growing. So let's look at the plant cycle right now. So the plant cycle. So we start in spring in a stream for deciduous plants. Deciduous plants, the good thing about deciduous plants is that they are really specific in what they are doing in which season. And that makes it way easier to maintain. It's actually one of my favorites, deciduous, because, you know, like it's just, it's kind of like they don't multitask much. They're like simple like me. They do one thing at a time. So spring, they're growing and that's what they are doing. They're not doing anything else. The first shoot of growth, the strength, spurts of growth comes from the stored energy in the root system. So, you know, sometimes we have drought situations in winter, or we have problems in fall. Is going to show in that moment in spring. When I finish with the cycle, you're going to understand what I'm saying. In summer they are going to start blooming. Some of them start blooming, some of them start blooming later. But in summer they are growing and blooming. So that's what they are focusing on. In fall, you can see how important fall is for these plants. So some of them are blooming, some of them are blooming in the second time. Some of them, most of them are producing, some of them are producing those flower buds. And I will explain a little bit what that means. And then some of them are having that fall color, like the oak leaf hydrangea, the Cursifolia. And all of them are preparing for winter, which that means is they're doing two things. They are storing energy in the root system. That is the energy that they are going to use in spring to grow. So if you are having issues in fall with your hydrangea, you are going to see it in spring a little bit. So the other thing that they do is that hormone. I put just hormone there. But what I'm trying to say is that one of the things about preparing for winter is that they release hormones and chemicals, things, the plants, to protect themselves from cold weather. So if we're talking about California, we still have snow areas. Like I have my friend that lives in near Yosemite. They get a lot of snow. We have Tahoe, you know, Mammoth Lake, all those areas, they do get like a big amount of snow. So plants, these plants, and even the plants were here, they prepare for fall. And what the preparation is, they release these hormones and chemicals so they don't get, they don't freeze themselves, you know, like the canes don't freeze themselves. So they're doing a lot of things in fall. So in fall, one of the things I'm trying to say to people is don't cut your water in fall saying, oh, it's kind of like not that hot, so I'm gonna cut my water. Actually, they actually do need that water so they can take the nutrients from the soil at the time that they are storing in the system. If you have problems with hydrangeas that they didn't flower, this is a good time to put that food for blooms, you know, fertilizer for blooming. They have specific fertilizers for that. I don't have it here, but they do have it. That this is a good time to do that. It's gonna help you because they are, especially if you do it a little bit earlier in the fall. So like that, it actually adds to that energy, because right now they're supposed to be starting to producing those flowers. They are gonna be, yeah. So I am actually like doing a lot of for plants that they don't look too good, I have few plants that they are not looking too good. I go and do a little bit of special water just for them. And I am using one of a tool. Well, I show you this tool after. I'm using a tool where that tool is difficult to use, but it's big, but it works really well. So pretty much I'm doing a little bit of extra water in the plants just for those plants that are not looking good for this fall, so they can actually do a lot of that energy storing in the root system. You can also fertilize with other fertilizers, not only the blooming fertilizer, but if your hydrangea was not doing too good, so then you can fertilize with anything else. And then we have winter. In winter, they're doing nothing. They are not dead. Don't cut them hard if you don't need to. They are not dead. I did have a client thought that the plant was dead and cut it. And so no good. Cut it all the way to the ground. We have to start all over again, especially because it was a tree hydrangea. So it's one that looks actually like a tree. So anyway, in this case, I put here. So then winter is when I do my pruning. Why? Because I'm not interrupting what the plant is doing in any case. I know that in a lot of places you hear that you need to prune like right after flowers, because right after it's flowering and all that stuff. But honestly, you don't. You can if you want to, but you don't. And it kind of complicates things. So going back to my analysis of when to prune and how. So, oh, there we go. So what I try to do is I look at the plant cycle. We already look at it. I am going to prune in winter. In winter, because they are dormant, when you prune them, they stimulate, make stronger the plant, invigorate the plant. And the reason is because all the stored energy that they put in that root system, now it has to feed less of those canes or less canes, less plant. So in that case, invigorates. I look at my climate. We have, in general, in California, we have really mild climate. So if you are in LA, so then your flowers will last for a long time, all the way to December. So we have to work with our climates. If you are, when you are in snow areas, you actually want to wait to early spring to do your pruning, because you don't want to cut it before, and then the snow covers the plant, and then that is how you get a snow bite. So frostbite. Then I look at the plant health. The only time, and I'm putting this here because I just pruned this hydrangea in this house 2 weeks ago. And so I'm kind of breaking my rules, you know, like why you prune it so early? Well, I prune it so early because actually hydrangea is growing too much and crowding in the area. So what I'm trying to say to the plant is slow down. I know it's protected from the microclimate is really protected in the place it is overgrown. So it was pruned really hard before. This is my first time pruning, but it was pruned really hard before. So what I had to do is I want to start generating that structure. So I actually cut it earlier, trying to slow it down. If my hydrangea is really is not doing too good, it's not good to cut it in summer or fall, and now you know why, because they are doing things. In summer they are growing, so that means they are feeding themselves. You're gonna, if you stress your hydrangea, is already stressed, it makes it weaker, it doesn't make it stronger. So look at the health of the plant and decide when do you want to cut it. Keep in mind the role of the plant. So how I said before, if I need my plant to grow tall, so maybe, you know, like if I cut in winter and I measure how much I'm cutting. If I want to reduce, in this case, the example, want to reduce this hydrangea to feed better, and it's just being too much. It actually grew, not to like joke, it grew 3 canes only, but they were, oh, I have the thickness of the canes. I show you later. Well, I can show you now. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? This thick of a cane. So it's pretty thick. It grows 3 canes only, really tall, taller than me. So I don't want a hydrangea like that. I actually want them to have more blooms and to go shorter. So keep in mind the plant role and the type of hydrangea. So in this case, they are from the whole 6 hydrangeas that you have, there are 2 that I'm gonna separate. The 2 that I'm separated from the group is, oh, this one the wrong way. Sorry. The climbing hydrangea, because the climbing hydrangea, everything that you have to do is just cut the shoots that are coming out of whatever place you are putting it on. So the new shoot, if it's sticking out and it's not grabbing from anything, you can cut it. You can cut it anytime, because this thing produces so many blooms, there is no such a thing about cutting the blooms. And the other one is the Arborescens, the Cursifolia. That one, I also want to make sure that you understand this is not a hydrangea you cut all the way to the ground. You cut it all the way to the ground if hydrangea is sick. That's it. Rather than that, like you actually have sickness, illness, disease, any like pests in the hydrangea, and you have to cut it all the way to the ground. So that means you are starting new. Those 2 hydrangeas, you don't cut hard, you just kind of like do maintenance work, and it's really easy. And I'm gonna explain to you. Okay, so it got stuck again. So now that we go to when to prune, how I see things, this is the cycle. So then we're going to talk about that pruning maintenance. I don't even know where to put this thing. Okay, so the pruning maintenance in California, I do it in December to February. That is my pruning for hydrangeas. I can do it anytime in places that I know they are protected from cold. I can do it later on in February, even a little bit into the March. It's okay. As soon as the plant is not growing, because when the plant is growing, it's already sending different chemicals, it's already moving things. You don't want to do that. I know that they always say if you wait until February, you're cutting the flowers. I'm going to explain about that theory later when I go through my points, but you are always cutting the flowers. If you cut the hydrangea right after the flower, you're cutting the flowers, because you are going to have to cut the flowers to be in that little, the window between having the flower open and producing the flower bud is weeks. So you're going to be cutting the flowers. Which ones do you want to cut? I think it depends on the role of the plant and the health of the plant. So maintenance pruning. After this one, I'm going to do a little demo. So the maintenance pruning, I start always with the 3Ds. And I am going to give you the steps. Those are the steps. And that is how I start. And the reason why is because those are the for sure things that you can always do. Cut your 3Ds, dead, disease, and damage. You're going to cut to living tissue. So pretty much cut the cane. You're going to shorten the stems. That is another one that I always do. Always. It's a year maintenance that I do with every hydrangea. I shorten the flower stems, or what they call deadheading. So how far do you go with that? Is depending in how big do you want your hydrangea to be. So that's why I put it there. You can go to, usually if I just want to deadhead, I go to the second pair of buds. So if, yeah, I explain that later, but it's like the second pair if I'm just deadheading. If I want to just reduce, so then I will reduce farther on. So pretty much looking at controlling the size. I am usually doing one-time pruning. So that means I am doing this deadheading and reducing when I'm cutting the flower stem in December. If you want to just deadhead and you want to do it before because you don't like to see the dead flowers there. So then you could just cut to the first pair of buds. That is perfect. Don't cut too much. Remove weak and spindly stems completely. That is my third point that I always do with any hydrangea. That is my three rule of thumbs that I always do. Even if I don't have to do much with hydrangea, those are the three things I always do every year with hydrangea as a maintenance pruning. Why? Because that weak stem, even if it flowers, the flower is just gonna go down. So you don't wanna do that. You want that stem to stay there for the whole year, and then you cut it in December. Why? Because that is how you invigorate your plant. So whatever stem is there, whatever cut you do in December is stimulating growth next year. So you cut all those little ones, all that energy from the little ones is gonna become in bigger canes or stronger canes for next year. So cut these spindly stems. Now, the other thing I do is when I have a more established hydrangea, I start removing or reducing stems that are going inward. So now I'm looking at my structure. It's a established plant. So what I mean in my structure is when I look at my plants, and I'm going to show you a picture of structure right now, actually. So when I mean with the structure is this. I am looking at my main stems and I'm saying, okay, what do I need to do? I'm not looking at the foliage. I'm not looking at anything. I'm looking just at, look, this is my structure. So I am looking at how these canes move around, how thick they are, and I'm gonna work with that. So that is the thing I do. But this is what I do when I have already established, well, I do that often actually, cutting, not removing all, but I do remove some of the canes because what happens is hydrangeas have opposite, and I'm gonna show you this, but had opposite buds. So they are always gonna have stems growing inwards. So if I have too many, it's gonna get too crowded. So the way I thin out the crowdedness is, if I need to still cut more, I will cut the inward stems, the stems that are going inside the plant. And then the next thing I do is thin out some of the canes. Even though I have my structure, sometimes I say, like for example, in this one. So I don't know if you can see, but in here you can see that I had cut canes that they were going from in, like all the way to the ground. So what I am doing is I am stimulating new growth, new canes. So when the cane is already too old, or I decided I need new growth, so I cut some of those old stems. So so those are the steps that I do. Those I do that. The three, I do it even every year with all of them. The last two, I do it with plants that they are already established. They have been in the soil for few years, and I have been maintaining them. So I do the 5 steps every year. So now we're gonna do the pruning demo. Can you guys, let me see if I can, I'm gonna figure it out a little bit this. If Jen can help me a little bit with if it's visible or not.
Yeah, I can see it good.
Okay. So this is the hydrangea we have here. Again, I am gonna do my 3 C's. So this is dead. You can see here, this stem is dead. So I'm gonna cut the dead, and I go really quick cutting all the dead. Anything that got damaged before, so you can see here, I come at all this dead. And the reason why I take my time to cutting the dead is, one, I wanted to clear the plant out. Cutting the dead to a living tissue stimulate growth, and then it's not so busy. So this is not dead, this is dead. So angles is not important in hydrangea pruning, I will say. It's more how close you are from the buds. So I try to go as pretty close, not too close. So I did my dead.
Elizabeth, are you pruning at a certain angle, or you're just cutting it off? You're not really.
No, so yeah, no, I am not pruning at any angle. So pretty much what I am doing is, if you see this one, I am just going as close as I can. Angles,
Okay.
angles in the hydrangea doesn't work that well. So so in this one that is kind of big, you can see the bud right there.
Mhm.
So I just go. So you can see how close it is. It's not that close. So I cut, let's say that I already cut the, okay, I did cut all the dead. So this is, I think, the best way to see this. So now I'm gonna look at my canes. So you can see that there are ones that are really high. Like, I don't know if you can see, this one is really high, you cannot even put it. So I am gonna control a little bit that. I want the plant to be growing together. So this is a pretty open hydrangea when it comes to a structure. So I'm looking at my canes, I'm looking at this cane. So this one, for example, is one cane I will cut. I don't know if you can see it, but it's this one. Even though it's a new cane, is going in and then coming out. So I am gonna cut that one. So then that open that. I'm gonna go around. I am gonna select the thick canes. So I'm gonna cut this one and this one because they look like they're not gonna make it. So I already cut the dead. Now I'm cutting the weak. So I go around, I see this, I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see this weak cane here. You see the difference between this cane and this cane? The thicker the cane it is, the stronger it is. So I am gonna come and cut this one here. So the leaving less, a little bit less canes in your old wood is gonna help produce more growth too. So I have this one here. In this case, I'm gonna look at my structure. So for example, I have this cane coming, laying another cane. So instead of doing that, I'm just gonna cut it. And I'm just gonna leave this one. This one is gonna generate growth here. So that's good, I want that. I'm gonna go around. So now you can see, this is the part I did. It's more open, airy, you can see through. This is crowded. So that is what you want to kind of do. Go around with your plant and then figure it out what to do. This cane was cut here before, and then you have another one here. So I will say one of those two will need to go. I'm gonna go with this one. So after I do my hydrangea and I see that it's open and airy, the structure that I wanna see is coming up and out, up and out. For example, I have this tree here. I will say, you know what, you could cut this one and then you have up and out, up and out. So that is how my hydrangeas look at the end. And the rest of the things I do is at the top, I come and reduce this cane to thick bud, and then I had it now all, I don't know if you can see that, but I had it now all kind of like rounded and in one height. So the things I want to show is when we are cutting this when we are cutting this, don't know if you guys can see the buds. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we want to do is when we were talking about just deadheading, so let's say that the flower is here. So when I'm deadheading, I am going to count 1 set of buds, 2 set of buds, and I cut right on top of that. That's what I will do in deadheading. Of course, it will have flowers. So then it will have leaves. So then you will not see it, but I need it to be able to show it. I remove the leaves. So that is what is important when you do deadheading. If you are deadheading a stem that is not too strong, like this one, compare with this one, you can see which one is stronger. This one. So then if you are deadheading a cane that is kind of like really skinny, you could just go a little bit down. So what it's gonna do is gonna stimulate more growth. Hopefully that growth is stronger. If you are deadheading and you are doing this, like if you are like in fall, so what happens is any growth that comes here, if you are having a weak growth, like this one, if the response is something like this, so that means that stem should go in winter because it's just gonna be weak. If you do this cut that I did here, and this is the response, that means, okay, this is gonna produce a nice flower, it's gonna be able to hold the flower. So that is what you wanna do. You wanna be able to stimulate your plant in the right way. That is why sometimes, instead of choosing to prune, or even deadheading, if I can, I tell my clients, let's just do 1 pruning. We wait for the plant to do everything that they need to do. And then I prune, I stimulate, invigorate, reduce, shape in winter. So any questions for the demo and the pruning and everything?
Well, I have a question. Yes, there are questions, but I have a question first. How much would be the most, most amount you could prune? Like, would you say like 1/3 of the plant or like 1/4 of the plant? Like how, can you cut it in half basically? I mean, how far down can you cut the hydrangeas?
Yeah.
And not to the ground, obviously, but like,
So, okay, so I will show you that with the slides because I have different examples that will show you how much I will go according with what I want to do with the pruning. So just to answer your question, it will be how much you will do depending of what I am trying to do with my plant. And what is the stage of the plant.
This is a good question. Not everybody knows the difference between old wood and new wood. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so this one is really easy to see. What is my other cane? Oh, I have 2 canes here. I got these 2 canes for that. So the old wood, when we talk about plants that produce flowers in the old wood, that means in the last year growth. So, and the thing is, you can have, when you have a structure, my structure can be 3 years old. The wood that grows from that structure is the one that needs to be last year. So that's why that system works with everybody. But to be more precise, or to keep clarifying things, when you have old wood, your old wood is gonna look a little bit more brown.
Brown, yeah.
New wood is gonna look a little bit, it's gonna be greener. So pretty much the new wood means all the growth of this 2021. That is what we refer to new wood. Anything that grows from 2021. This is my last year, 2020. This is old wood, what we call old wood. It can be older, yes, but that's what we mean. So it's 1 year and plus older. Yeah. So when you generate a structure, what I do is I try to keep some of this old wood and some of the new wood. So like that, it doesn't matter which hydrangea I'm pruning, I am gonna have flowers because I have both woods. So
Got it.
So
do you recommend deadheading kind of regularly, or just is there a benefit to leaving the flower on?
the benefit of leaving the flower is only for well, some people like the color when they're drying, but that's not a benefit for the plant. But the benefit for the plant is when you are in conditions like, for example, my friend that I go, it's a good deal because I go to Yosemite, I stay in his house, and then I can do the hydrangeas. And so in that case, I wait all the way to spring and we leave the flowers. So because the flowers also, if the plant doesn't get a lot of snow or it gets frost, like it gets really cold, the flowers are protecting the plant from, you know, like getting frostbite. So that is the only benefit of leaving the flowers. The only, if the garden is, or if the person is pruning too hard when they are just deadheading, so they are weakening my canes, so then I will say don't deadhead. If you are not sure, don't deadhead. Yeah, or just cut the flower, just cut the flower.
We have a bunch more questions, but I think we should go on because I think you're going to be answering them further down. And like I said, we will reserve a chunk of time towards the end to clean up as many questions as we can. So this is all super great information. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, so the pruning now. Oh, okay, this didn't work. I changed my screen this way. Okay, well. I have to start all over. I close my
to share the screen.
Yeah, I actually closed the presentation by mistake. Share the screen. Yeah, I closed the presentation. Let me open the presentation. Okay. So sorry about that. It doesn't, it's not sure. Okay. Okay.
All right.
So here again, after the demo, so a little bit of that review was the 3Ds. That's the first thing I do. I shorten the stems. I show you the 2 ways to shorten them: to remove the weak and spindly, and why. Cut and remove reduced stems with, like I show you, the inwards. And well, in this case, I didn't select some of these canes, but I'm going to show you. So this is the first example before and after in established plant. So you can see that I'm really working in my structure here. So I had already pruned these many years, and the role of the plant is getting taller and covering the post and protecting people from viewing the house. So like how far did I go with reducing last year growth? I went pretty, I did it really mellow. So I will cut like a third of the shoot, just to answer James' question. So it is really important that, you know, we know what we're trying to do with the plant, not just cutting. Anybody can do just cutting, but if you kind of like have an idea what you want the plant to do, it gets easier to know how to approach it. So in this case, what we want is we want these plants to go taller, no bushier, no wider, but taller. So I'm leaving a lot of my height every time, and I am generating that structure. And so in the case of maintaining it, I cut, you know, like I cut the flowers, I cut some of the spindly stems. You can see that I have some spindly stems here. I don't want, I'm gonna cut those. The one thing for the height, I do still follow something like a rounded shape in my hydrangeas. It helps for balancing when they grow, that they don't look kind of weird. How do I know how deep I should go with my canes? Also with the heading of the flower, my canes will tell me if the cane is bending like this, like you can see here, that is fully bending. That means the cane is not strong enough to hold the branch, to hold the flower, like this one. So this one, I would remove it because he's telling me it's not. So I can cut it shorter or I can fully remove it. And that is going to stimulate another cane, hopefully stronger. If you cut in winter, it's supposed to be stronger. So what you want to do is if I have a hydrangea that is all of them are bending, so that means I'm going to go a little bit deeper than 1/3 of the shoot, down, 1/3 down. If my hydrangea is like this one, that I can keep up with the flowers, like the flowers are standing up, so then I am just going to cut 1/3. You can go to the second, third bud, is okay. I still want the plant to stimulate. I still want to stimulate grow up. So I am going to balance that. The more I cut, the stronger that shoot is going to be. So I want to cut some. So in a way, in winter, I am reducing it, but in spring, it's going to shoot out double. So that's what I want. So in this one, we talk about the structure. So the one cane I didn't do that I look in the drawing and it totally show is this one. I wish I had cut this one out. I think that it's already leaning. I don't like those canes that are already leaning too much. I usually want the canes that are going up and out, like this one. So you see all my canes had that ball shape going up and out. This one is too horizontal. And then you have it here. But that one I can cut. And the good thing is when I cut a cane like that, I'm going to have shoots coming right from there going up. So that is going to generate growth. So all these little ones, spindles, I remove some of the spindly in this section. And then I left that upper section kind of thick because I want that plant to still grow strong. And that's what I did. The other example I have here is this one. This one, I am going to be honest, this one is not really a before or after of the same plant. But this is a way that I can show you. This plant has been there for at least 4 years. It has not been pruned ever. And it's going to be my first time pruning it. That is the example I'm giving you right now. So if it's my first time pruning it, I am going to go and cut. I am cutting actually half of the plant in the canes. So I just want to give you the visual because this is something that people have a hard time when I say cut 30%, cut 20%, cut 50%. People is not so clear on that. So in this case, when I am cutting for the first time an established hydrangea that had never been done, I can cut up to 50%. And the way I do it is I go to the dead disease and damage, and I do the height. In this case, I want the hydrangea to grow. So what I will do is I just cut like a little, rounded up the shape, leave toes, but not too, I want everything to grow together. And then at the same level, what I mean with together. And then I will cut, so you can see the roundedness here, the base of the plant. I'm going to cut anything that is not going up, that is going horizontal. So all these are going to be gone. And then the last thing I will do is thin out the inside canes. All those spindly ones, I'm going to select the thicker ones. Because the thicker ones are going to produce thicker shoots, are going to grow stronger, are the ones I want. So this is my before and after for a first time pruning of established hydrangea. Then this is the other one. That's why I was kind of like, it's hard to tell you how much you really cut because it totally depends. This is a hydrangea that it was planted a year ago and is my first time pruning it. So I went pretty hard. Why? Because I want to start, for 2 reasons. I want to start establishing my structure. And how you can see, the canes are still kind of weak. So when in the sense that are kind of like not too thick. are really skinny, all of them in general. It's a new hydrangea. So what I did the same thing. I went and reduced the amount of canes, and I actually went strong reducing the canes. Most probably, if this is one of the hydrangeas that produce in the old wood, well, I still have wood. So you see, I left wood on it. My goal with this hydrangea is to start generating the structure. So I had compromised by reducing the amount of flowers it's going to have for next year. However, again, my goal in this case was trying to generate that structure, make that canes stronger, and invigorate the plant. So that's what I did in this one. And this one is examples of the different structures for the different plants. I don't know if you can see this, but let me move this. So in this one is a paniculata. They're supposed to grow in new wood. So anything that will grow from here that is new is gonna shoot out flowers. This one I am trying to keep small. So I actually, you can see that it's strong cane, but I cut more than half of the cane. For the height, I did my roundedness. I do like to do that roundedness. I have established canes already, so I try to keep those and renovate like always. This one, the Microphylla, I did, in this case, I'm leaving more canes that, you know, just 3, 4, or 5. I am leaving way more canes, you can see here. But I want this one to be thicker, wider. So again, the role of the plant, the space I have. So this one is a fence that is like 3.5 feet tall, and the plant's supposed to cover, get bigger and cover that section. So I am leaving more canes. I did cut and reduce. This is the one that I showed you before, that I did reduce some of the canes. So pretty much in this one, I will do the 5 points for my presentation about maintaining the plant. Next year, maybe I come and remove one of them, and maybe I can remove another one. I could keep removing canes, but you know, one of the things about pruning that we all need to know is when to stop. So when I look at my debris next to my plant and I see my debris is, you know, like more or less 30%, 40%. So I stop right there. So that's what I stop. I could keep going. Like this area looks a little thick, but it was good enough. I open up a lot. These ones are the dumps. And the reason why I show you these two is because it's not good. I know that people say that you just cut it down. But this is something that I will do if there's, actually I will not do this for any reason. It is really important that you thin out the base of your plant, pretty much selecting the canes and cutting all the twigginess. If you have good canes, strong canes, you don't want to cut all of them at the same height. They did a little bit of the roundedness, but in this case, I would rather have a more differentiation in the heights. So my thicker canes maybe will be like a little higher. My lower canes will be a little lower. In this case, you can see that you have dead canes and thick canes and all canes in there, all of them at the same height. So, yeah.
Elizabeth, would you say, just like as a general rule, because I know we say this with roses, like when you're talking about weaker canes, is that like canes that are smaller than the size of a pencil? You know, like just so we have a gauge in our mind of like what's the diameter of the weaker canes?
So I will say if you have established hydrangea, weaker canes is smaller than a 1/4 inch.
Okay. So yeah, so
smaller.
smaller. Yeah, so that's about like a pencil. I think it's just good to have like a visual on it, because
Yeah. So I think that if it's smaller than a pencil, it's kind of weak. If it cannot, like you can see that they go also like that, so you know that they're kind of like struggling. Your canes should be like poof, poof. It goes kind of like wobbly. It is weak. So Now for the products, I do select two things that I wanted to talk to you. I stopped sharing. So for my products, I select some of the fertilizers. So I'm gonna start with one of my favorite brands. So this is one of my favorite brands just because, you know, it's Omi. Oh, it's here or here? Omi. It's here. So Omri or whatever you call it, that is kind of like organically certified thing. So I am actually going with down the earth a lot. They are not so strong. They don't use plastic, which I love that. For example, this one, the Badwamo, I use it because it's kind of like a complete type of fertilizer. It does have the nitrogen, it does have the phosphorus, the potassium, and also have the microbes. So I use that a lot. You can use that right now. That will be a good fertilizer to use right now. The other one that you could do is, this one is dripping, so I'm gonna be really careful, is the Azalea Camellia fertilizer. I also use EV Stone, and it's organic too. And you can put, you know, this one, the good thing is that you can put a lot. It's never gonna burn your plant or be damaging for the plant. Then the other one that you can do is the soil acidator. That is something that you can put to generate the blooms. You do have to be careful with this. This is essentially aluminum sulfate. So like this one too. Sorry, this one and this one are the same thing. They are different brands. These ones you have to be careful. You can put too much, and there is such a thing as too acid for plants, even for hydrangeas. So you want to be mindful of following the instructions in the package because they are all different. So I'm not gonna say the instructions up to my brain, but follow the instructions. Don't put too much. If it's too much, what is gonna happen is your plant is not gonna actually produce that much blooms. It's gonna start reducing blooms. That had happened to me before, but it had happened when the plant itself is weak and they are already doing this, putting this sulfate on it. So then, because the plant is weak, it gets affected easily with changes, climate change, soil change, changes in general. So that is something that you want to be mindful. A strong plant with strong canes, you can do that. One of the things that I try to do is for plants that are in pots, I try to use liquid fertilizers better. Or if you have a dog, I try to use liquid fertilizers better. In this with Maxi, this is a good fertilizer, but you have to be careful. You can actually put too much of this. This is really concentrate. So you do want to follow the instructions of how much to put, how often. If you feel that you want to put more often fertilizer in the plants, so what you can do is dilute the amount that you put. So, but this is a good fertilizer for plants that are stressed. For example, right now, if you have a plant that is in general stress, and we are getting into fall, and in fall they are doing all those things that I mentioned, especially putting the energy in the root system, this will be a good liquid fertilizers are good for that because they take it right away. Fertilizers, they are more natural, so pretty much they are made out of plants and rocks and all that stuff, natural things. Poop, those they stay more in the soil, so they don't move that fast. But again, plant take it slower. So that is another thing that you want to know. Then I have, I brought a bunch of stuff just for, we have to be conscious that, you know, we are carrying in water. So we want to treat the soil. my first thing is put compost. Put compost in your soil. The more compost that you put in your soil, the better the soil is gonna be. And there is nothing like nature to help with the soil. So put compost. Any compost that you want. You can, if you want acid compost for your azaleas, then the grape compost is really acid, and it helps for the acidity in the soil, and it helps for the microbes, and it's really good. So if you just are gonna plant a new hydrangea or anything, actually, these two. And we're gonna have the list in the stores. So it's a sure start. And this one, that is the Organics Plant Success Organics Granular. It has mycorrhizae. Here it is the name. The mycorrhizae is really, really good. Pretty much what you are doing is you are giving spores for fungi to grow in your soil. And now we know that all that mycorrhizae helps the plant take nutrients and water out of the soil in moments of stress or anything like that, or in general. So, now we know also that, funguses are like the main thing. It's like bacteria in our mouth and in our guts. That is the fungi for nature. So we actually want those. We don't want to remove all the bacteria from anything in our lives. The other thing is, if a plant is having a hard time and you want to do like a foliar spray, which is to give it gives the kick to the plant, then this one, the Super Thrive, is something I suggest to people. So some of our plants are having a little bit of hard time for the drought because we cut in water. So that's why I'm showing these things. If you want to help with soil retention, so you can actually put pea moss in your soil, and that will add acidity. You can put it in your soil, or you can put it in your pots. So instead of adding more water to the pots, you can actually add this and reduce the water. So you can put it at the top and wait for it to disintegrate, or you can actually put it, mix it in the soil when you're planting or stuff like that. That is a nice, helps for retaining the soil. So that is really good. There is another product that I have not used, but is this one, but it was recommended to me. This is another one like pea moss, but it is not acid. So you can actually use it for other plants that are not acid. And it's called Grow Light. Grow Light, and that also help for soil, water retention. So products that help for water retention are really, really good right now. The other thing I was going to show you that it fell and everything and make a whole thing about it is this tool. So this is something that I'm promoting because I am using it a lot. It has saved a lot of my plants, not in my garden, but in my clients' gardens, and I use it a lot. So this is something that is called a root irrigator. I didn't even know that is what it's called. I had been using it for 2 years and I didn't know the name. So, and this connects to the hose, and what it does is it's a long stick. That's why it was kind of like bulky. So you put it in the ground, you open the hose, and it has some holes at the tip, hopefully you can see them, that put water in the root system. So instead of if you are having problem with plants, actually any plants, but if you're having problems with plants because we have to cut in water, you could use this, and it's more, the plant that is having the problem, you just add a little bit of water. If you do that, especially in the fall, that the deciduous plants are getting the energy in the root system. Or if you're gonna fertilize, you put Maxi and then you go maybe once a month, and put a little extra water right in the root system is really helpful. So I'm using that a lot, and I'm promoting that tool because I have seen the difference. Yeah. So I think that, and then, the good tools. So I think that it's really important that you actually use the right tools for when you're pruning, something that is sharp and is clean, and that do good cuts, because if you do good cuts, you have less open wounds for diseases and pests come in your plant. So yeah, I think that we cover all.
Yeah, oh gosh, that was amazing. Tons of information. I'm so thankful for your expertise and your presentation. We have a ton of questions. I just want to remind people, if you're asking about watering or fertilizer or soil, I want to direct you to the webinars we did specifically on that, because you can apply it to hydrangeas too. And there's a ton more information there than we can go into with just answering here a question or two. So all of the webinars are recorded, and all the recordings are available on our website. If you go under the Learn tab, then there's garden videos under there, and there's a ton of information. So definitely, there's a lot of questions on water, fertilizer, and soil, of course, because they're very critical. In fact, I always say that 70% of the garden is the stuff you don't see, which is the water, the fertilizer, and the soil. So that's how critical it is. And that's how important it is for you to actually refer to those classes specifically on those topics, because it's a lot. There's a lot of information. In terms of the hydrangeas, let's see. I guess I don't know this. A couple people were the roots. I mean, are the roots going as deep as the plant is high? Do they have a tap root, or what is their root system?
Yeah, no, they don't have a tap root. But yes, usually the root system, how you cannot guess where the root system is as far as the foliage is. So I have to say, one of the things that you want to do is adjust your irrigation. So if it's newly planted, I have irrigation close to the base of the plant, or on top of the base of the plant. You actually do not want to have your emitter so close to the plant. You want to have it farther away. So I will say, if you are watering, so if you have the base of your plant, which is right here. I have the base of the plant right here, even if it's in a pot or if it's in the. So what I want to do is I want to put water right farther out, and you can do 8 inches, 5 inches. So what you are trying to do is stimulate that. If the roots are not there, you are stimulating the roots to go out instead of in. And if the roots are there, you are actually putting water in where the roots are. Don't put water right in here, like right in here. What is going to happen is you may get some canes dying. So, so in general, in this case, my foliage is here, my water should be around here.
Great. A couple questions on disease, and then I think we'll wrap it up, because it's a lot. I know it's a ton of information, and I know there's a lot of questions. I do want to say, I mean, Elizabeth put her info down for you to ask her questions. You can also email me questions, because we do want to support your gardening journey. We just have to put a time limit on it at some point. So anyway, but regarding diseases, a couple questions on black spot on the leaves. I've seen that myself too. Is that typically some sort of like a root fungus, or is it more environmental, and do you recommend cutting it off or spraying it?
Yeah, so The black spots are, I think that it can be bacteria or it can be fungus. So it is kind of environmental. I would say if you see the black spot, remove it, because if it's fungal, so you are actually do the mechanical of removing the flower, the
Leaf.
um, but the spray, so I don't necessarily suggest spraying it unless that you have it really bad everywhere. I think that first go with the mechanical. Hydrangeas are not, they don't get sick of a lot of things. So in this year, I am expecting plants for next year. I am expecting a little bit more diseases and fungi going on, just because we are kind of like going into drought and keeping the plants kind of like dry. So you want to see that. That's why I will say put more into fertilize the plant, keep the plant strong, instead of start putting pesticides, because a lot of the pesticides we don't, or the disease control,
Fungicide. Yeah.
we don't even know how they are affecting insects and all that stuff. So that's kind of like my way to approach the situation. It has to be really bad for it to get a spray, not just
I'm the same way, 100%. Yeah, and also like if you do have black spots on your leaves, you can also take the leaves off. Somebody asked like right away. Yeah, you can take it off right away, but then also make sure that there's not those diseased leaves around the base of the plant, because that's just going to spread it to you.
Okay.
And then one other question, and I think this is good, because a lot of the hydrangeas now, especially with the drought and sort of hot weather that we've been having, some are showing more sunburn on the leaves. Do you recommend pruning off those burnt leaves, or do you recommend keeping them on to sort of protect the plant through the heat and then wait till December or whatever to prune?
Yeah, so the sunburn, so the thing about keeping I will recommend keeping the leaves unless that they're like fully dry. If it's fully dry, of course, most probably they're gonna fall. But if they are still just sunburn at the edges, keep the leaf, because right now, again, the more foliage that you have, the more energy that the plant is being able to put in stems and the root system. So you wanna have that. So yeah, and that's why, again, doing a little bit of that watering with that tool I show you. I want to pick it up because it falls all the time, and doing a little bit of fertilizing now is kind of important because of that, because we are gonna have that. We had a really nice weather in summer. It didn't go that hard, so now we're gonna have that little bit of burning the leaves. Thanks God it's kind of like later in the season, but try not to remove them unless that they are like really annoying you. Try not to remove them if the leaf is still green, 60% of the leaf is still green. So like that, they can still photosynthesize, because that is how they photosynthesize. So
yeah, okay, well, this has been amazing. There's tons of compliments on your presentation. You fully covered this so well and made it very accessible and very easy to understand. I really appreciate that, Elizabeth. And also, for everybody asking about her slides, remember this is being recorded. So once the recording is available, you can, pause and screenshot and whatever and rewind. And just that is a really helpful resource as a refresher to any of the information that she shared. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Elizabeth, so much. Love having you present for us. And hope to see everybody at the next webinars. It's a nice day out, so I hope everybody's gonna get outside and get in the garden. So thanks again. Have a wonderful Saturday, everyone. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Bye, Jen.
Bye.